Hello my dear students, welcome to BYJU'S exam prep. In this video of Super Saturday, we will be talking about a very hot topic of in the automobile sector, that is flex fuel. Because for the past 2-3 years, we are basically working, our entire automobile R&D sector is working on this field. So definitely you should be knowing what is the main importance and what is this flexible fuel or flex fuel, which is a very interesting in the automobile domain. So let's begin the session, and definitely this fuel is gonna be the driving we can say the automobiles in the near future, so you should be having a better understanding. Now before starting the session, let me show you one clip which minister transport minister basically Shri Nitin Gadkari ji. Let's have a look over this.
इथेनॉल पर चलेगी 60% इथेनॉल 40% बिजली, उसका अगर एवरेज पकड़ा जाएगा तो 15 रुपए लीटर पेट्रोल का भाव होगा.
Now, you might have, it's very surprising that petrol at rupees 15, it's definitely a very big statement given by our union minister, but it is actually achievable if you are going in a right direction, right? So in this video, we'll be having a detailed discussion about what is this ethanol blending fuel that he was basically mentioning about, and we'll be talking about what are the sources and what could be the possible positive points and negative points about this fuel. We'll be discussing this in detail in this video. Now, did you know that by 2050, by 2052, it was a survey being given by our scientists at the global platform, the resources, the conventional resources that we are having, the petrol or diesel, it will be almost be very the barrels that will be having, it's very we can say tending to a very low value, right? So it's very important that you should be knowing that our oil deposits will be gone by 2052. So definitely now every country is now thinking in a different alternative fuel perspective. That is the reason in last few years you might have seen a quick rise in electric vehicles. You might have heard about the hydrogen powered vehicle also. So now we have to now switch to one more alternative, that is ethanol blending fuel. Because imagine a scenario that you are after let's say 30 years, you are not having any fossil fuel being left out. You only have to run each and every automobile, even for a commercial perspective also, in EV or your hydrogen powered or ethanol blending. So definitely that is very important, because to manufacture, to make a fossil fuel, it minimum requires 50 years to make a fuel, right? And if you see the current your price rise, and also if you see your consumption rate is too high right now. If you are persistent with the current rate, definitely the price rise, and you might have known that why petrol is reaching some states, you might have observed that is it has crossed 100 rupees. The reason being because to curb the use of this fossil fuels, people should opt for public transportation because of this price rise. But if you see that the consumption rate is not going to decrease, it is increasing much more. If you see in the past 2-3 years, the consumption rate has been increasing in a very drastic rate. Okay, so it's very important you should be having one alternative, or else you will be having one scenario that your car will be parked and you won't be able to drive because there is no fuel left out, or if there is fuel, the price will be so high that you won't be able to purchase even a liter of fuel, right? So it's very important you need to understand, because normally it takes around 50 years approximately to produce the large deposits of fuel. Okay, and it is having a lifespan of 15 to 30. So definitely it's not like that you will be having completely nil, but yes, by seeing the current consumption rate, we can have that scenario that the price of the fuel, petrol and diesel, will be very high, which is not being we can say afforded by any common person, right? So that is the reason every government, even every country, is now working in an alternative fuel direction, and this ethanol blending or the flex fuel that we have seen is one of the possible solution to this as an alternative to this conventional fuels or petrol and diesel. The flexible fuel vehicles, that is FFV, is the possible solution for the problem that we are facing with the conventional fuels, right? And what we have seen that by using this ethanol, we are having a very good we can say the advantages of using this ethanol, because if you try to blend this ethanol with even petrol or even with diesel, definitely we can use that as a very good replacement to the conventional fuel, because it is having a capability to easily bend to any of the either gasoline or ethanol up to 83%, right? It can increase the efficiency of any we can say vehicle up to a very good percentage, right? So it's very important. You need to know what is this flex fuel and why ethanol is so important in our automobile sector. Now, if I talk about simple understanding, ethanol is hydrocarbon, and it is very easy to manufacture also, and it can easily blend with either petrol or diesel. It can blend with either one. There is no restriction that we can have. Either we can go for petrol plus ethanol, or you can go for the diesel plus ethanol, right? You can blend with any one of the fuel, conventional fuel, and that will not only increase the efficiency, it will also decrease the emissions by a huge rate, right? That is the reason it's now a very important. You might have heard a fuel, that extra fuel or premium fuel you might have seen in the different petrol pump, that is basically that 87 octane 87 which is having a blended with 10% ethanol, and by blending 10% ethanol with that fuel, the overall we can say quality of the fuel has been increased, and this is the standard being given, that octane 87. In that octane 87 we are using 10% ethanol, and by doing this we are basically decreasing the emissions and increasing the performance. And this is very, we can say, a positive thing, because normally when we're talking about alternative fuels or a replacement of conventional fuels, we always see a majority of the drawbacks. But if I see from this perspective, from the flex fuel perspective, we are actually increasing the performance and efficiency of the engine. So much positive things. Definitely there might be some huge problem. That is reason the government or any of the country is not able to implement this on a larger scale, right? That we'll be discussing the later on stages. If you see, if you are actually blending 1 liter of petrol with 1 liter of ethanol, like say 1:1, so the performance has been drastically increased, and the price of the petrol can be decreased by more than 30%. More than 30% of the price we can decrease by blending 1 liter of petrol to 1 liter of ethanol. Now that's a very good sign, considering the current scenario, the current consumption rate of the conventional fuels. By 2050, just now we have seen that scientists has projected that we will be out of the conventional fuels for the usage, and the price definitely is going to rise too high. Okay, so in order to curb this is the best possible solution. And why we are concentrating on ethanol? Because ethanol can be manufactured by either one of this, because it requires sugar or starch or cellulose, and we can easily obtain the ethanol, the sugar or starch or cellulose, by using the sugar cane, or we can go for the grasses, we can go for your we can say corn agriculture, and we don't have to wait for 50 years like in conventional fuels. In petrol and diesel we have to wait for 50 years. For manufacturing ethanol, you need to have a corn farming, or you need to have a sugarcane farming. From there you can definitely get an ethanol, you can definitely manufacture ethanol. And the best part is, ethanol, after the extraction of the ethanol, whatever the leftover we are having, we can extract the oil also, which we are using in our cooking, right? We are using the different oils, the cooking oils, which is being extracted from that only, right? So definitely that's a very good advantage. And the best very good advantage about this is its freezing point is near about to minus 114 degrees Celsius, which is much lower than that of petrol or diesel. And that might be the very good point about ethanol is you can operate a vehicle even at a cold climatic condition. No need to have that initial warming of the car is required. Like normally when in winter season, what we do, we try to switch on the vehicle before going for a long drive. We try to switch on the vehicle for at least 3 to 4 minutes, so that the engine is getting its temperature risen, and then only we have to drive for a longer range, right? But in case of ethanol blending fuel, no need to have that kind of because it is having a freezing point of near about to minus 114. And the best part is the ignition temperature of ethanol is not too high. That means the overall temperature of the engine will be not too high, and the lubrication required will be not that much required as compared to that of a conventional ICE engine. And because there is no residual and no higher temperature is being attained by the engine. So servicing or the maintenance required will be quite less as compared to the petrol or diesel engine. Right now, the most and foremost, the very important advantage about this is because it is directly related to our agriculture sector. You have to increase the manufacturing of production of your sugarcane or your corn, right? And or we can say different agriculture, you have to increase the production, and definitely it will be increasing the overall, we can say, from monetary perspective also, it will be helping us, our agriculture sector, the rural area will be developed, and definitely it will be creating lot many jobs in the agriculture sector. So definitely we are having lot many positivities. But if I talk about the history of this ethanol blending, it was first uh, automobile that was used, the ethanol was used was 1826. This was the first time the ethanol was used for one of the automobile. But if I say, you might be knowing about Nicholas Otto, the person who has invented the Otto cycle, the SI engine, right? So definitely you might have heard about this Nicholas Otto, and you would be surprising to know that he actually used ethanol when he first tested an IC engine. When he developed an IC engine for the first time, used an ethanol fuel to run that engine. So, but later on stages, it was not that developed, because at that point the fossil fuel reserves was too high, and ethanol was only used for only the daily use fuels, like to lit the lantern or some small scale, only they were using ethanol. But during the World War II, when in the global platform every countries were having a shortage of fuel, right? So that moment, every country was thinking about a different alternative, because they have to run the uh, uh, country without the fossil fuel as alternative. Also, we have to have any planning. So that is the reason, in 1980s, United States have already projected, and he have stated that ethanol is very important, and that is the reason you might have heard that US is a prime manufacturer of corn and sugarcane. And definitely and there are a lot many US government policies which is boosting the manufacturing sector of, or the production of a corn or production of your sugarcane on a large scale. That will be helping their farmer, or and the development will be there, the jobs creation will be there, and definitely they will be based beyond that, the ethanol will be manufactured on a large scale, and they can use that fuel, the ethanol as a fuel for the automobile sector, right? Apart from this, in late 80s only, at that time, lead was introduced, which was blended with the conventional fuels to increase the performance. But with the time, we have observed that the carbon emissions, the carbon monoxide emissions from the lead was too harmful, that it was dangerous to the living human beings. So that is the reason we have replaced the lead from the ethanol on a smaller scale. And the very important reason is it is not harmful, it is easy to manufacture, and it is having the same usage as that of the lead. Like, we are not having that much of, like, lead is being used to increase the efficiency of the fuel. So same thing can be obtained by blending the ethanol with the conventional fuel rather than using the lead, because we know that from lead it's very dangerous to any living being, and that was actually creating health issues and not environmental friendly, right? So that is the reason nowadays we are started to use the blending of ethanol, but that too on a small scale, because it is easy to manufacture, it is having the same use as that of lead. It is being seen that in 1996, the first time on a large scale, a flex fuel vehicle was launched by Ford, and this was the first time they have used a flex fuel vehicle on a global platform. So on 1996 only this was used, and beyond, after that, Brazil, Canada and US are the countries which are using the flex fuel on a larger scale as an alternative fuel. And definitely this has increased the, we can say, the usage of the alternative fuels, and ultimately they are able to create jobs, and they are able to create a boost in the agriculture sector, and they are able to have a good alternative as compared to that of that conventional fuels they are using. Okay, But the problem is this: why recently, like the last 2 years, this ethanol was so demanding. This topic was so hot topic in the automobile sector. The reason being because recently Nitin Gadkari in 2021 he stated that India now must switch to the your flex fuel vehicle. The reason being, there are three major reasons that we can do, because India is this India's strongest point is the agriculture sector. India is having a very high production of pulses and cereal, right? Because that is the prime source of ethanol to produce. Second is it is environmental friendly. It is able to create job in this sector, and ultimately we are going for make in India, self dependence. So that was the reason uh, we can say had some policies. He have framed some policies in the automobile sector to create the flex fuel as a prime fuel. So that is the reason in the last 2-3 years you might be seeing there's a huge discussion in the alternative fuels because of these reasons, specifically this your ethanol blending fuel or flex fuel. You might have seen that nowadays we are using E85 ethanol, which basically it takes 85% ethanol and 15% petrol, and that decreases the carbon emissions by a huge amount, and overall efficiency has been increased, right? Even this is basically, we call it as your premium fuel, right? And if I talk about this one, the normal fuels also, they are blending 10% of ethanol, and that is also increasing the efficiency and lowering the carbon monoxide. But seeing the entire advantages till now, if you see till this point of time, you might have seen there is like only advantages you are seeing about this ethanol fuel or the flex fuel. But let us talk about what is the disadvantage, right? Fine. And if I talk about the recent advancement, recently, like I've told you in 2021, as Nitin Gadkari stated, so he has issued an advisory to all the automobile makers, automobile industry to think in the flex fuel direction, to manufacture the engines which is capable enough to run using the flex fuel, because flex fuel is nothing like you just need to blend ethanol with the conventional fuels, that's it. Okay. And TVS two-wheelers and Bajaj three-wheelers have already started manufacturing in this, or started thinking in this direction, and they have already started the manufacturing of this engines which is capable enough to run on flex fuels. This was given in 2021 December, right? And after this, in 2022, your Toyota has released their first ethanol run flex fuel hybrid car, which is able to nowadays it is actually running on Indian roads, right? Corolla Altis hybrid car, which was being unveiled by our Union Minister of Transport and Highways, that is Nitin Gadkari. Okay, so this was the time in last year, basically last year, this car was released by Toyota. But if I talk about first time, 1996, Ford was already have already released, and it took near about to like we can say uh, 20 20 years approximately, or 15 years approximately, to reach to this to in India to start to manufacture this Corolla Toyota car. Okay, fine. Now the question is, why, even though it's having lot many advantages, low price, easily available, even efficient also, why we are not using on a large scale? This is a very we can say important question that you might be having at your back of the mind. Seeing the efficiency being increased, your performance has been increased, then why we are not using this ethanol blending fuel on a large scale? Why we are only restricting ourselves? There are three problems that is being faced specifically in India. If I talk about in India, there is a three main reason. The first one is the land issue. Land issue, because we know that ethanol is being produced by either corn, or because we require starch, okay, we require glucose, so we can take corn or sugar cane, or we can take the pulses, we can take as a source of production for the ethanol, right? The major problem is to manufacture this on a larger scale you require a huge land, right? And that is a major problem that government is facing, because they cannot allocate a huge land as of like this. Because let us suppose if that year, okay, if you have started, any business person if have started any production of your for the production of ethanol, right? And there is some huge rain, or there is no rain, so there's a condition of drought situation also. So it is a huge risk also coming into picture whenever we are talking about the production of corn. Yes, we can go for a smaller scale, But for a larger scale, that is also a big challenge that government is facing. The first major reason is the issue of land, not able to have that much of huge land uh, to go for the production of corns or production of sugarcane or the pulses, right? Second major challenge that we are having is before using the ethanol, the ethanol has to be purified by using a distillation operation. And you know that if whenever you if you want to distill the ethanol on a larger scale, you require diesel and petrol. Okay, you require because without diesel or petrol you cannot go for distillation. Distillation is nothing but you are increasing the ethanol to a very high temperature and you are purifying that. Okay, so definitely this is a very major challenge that we need to overcome, and it is being observed that the fuel, the emission that we are saving by the implementation of the blending of the fuel, almost same amount of pollution will be created while distillation, for the distillation of an ethanol, right? So definitely that is a major challenge that is in front of the government, every the global platform, because to manufacture, to produce a distilled purified ethanol, it has to overcome this distillation process and requires petrol and diesel, right? Along with this, because petrol and diesel is required to manufacture, you cannot run an engine solely based on the ethanol. Like, you have to use a blending of either petrol or diesel. So that is also one of the major challenges, because as of, if you are using only 100% ethanol to a vehicle, not possible. You have to blend with either petrol or diesel. That is a major challenge. The last one is increase in the green rates, because let us suppose if you are using ethanol on a larger scale, then definitely the supply or the demand of that particular fuel will be very high. And if, let us suppose, if the agriculture segment is not able to supply and on that particular same rate, then definitely the price is going to rise, and ultimately it won't be impacting the fuel price, it will going to also impact the price of the pulses, the your corns, right? We will be having a shortage of this, right? And ultimately the possible alternative that we are thinking for the fossil fuel, that might be acting as a we can say negative thing for the shortages of the cereals or pulses, right? So that is a very important thing, because if you are increasing the ethanol production, the rise or the requirement of the corn will be very high, and ultimately what will happen, we won't be able to fulfill the requirement of the customers, right? Because requirement will be too high, not able to supply at that rate. So that will be that three are the major challenge that we are having. But if I say for the positivity thing, definitely that's a good alternative. It is being seen that for the last 2-3 years, we once India has started blending of petrol or the gasoline with ethanol, they have saved approximately 41,000 crore by replacing the petrol. And if I talk about the 6 important points which I have already discussed, the flex fuel or ethanol can run both with petrol and diesel. And definitely government is planning by 2025, at least 20% of the ethanol will be used for blending and for the usage in the automobile sector. And already, I just like stated, TVS and Bajaj already starting working on this, and they have started a limited edition Apache RTR motorcycle, which will be having a flex fuel powered engine, right? And the next very important thing is ethanol is hydroscopic and has a tendency to absorb moisture, making difficult to store in pure form, and that is the reason it's slightly difficult to transport also, right? So we have to have a proper storage for the ethanol, and right, and definitely this is a future fuel, because this is gonna replace our other conventional fuels in a larger scale. Okay, because you know that 2050 is the timeline given by the scientists as the fossil fuels reservations. So definitely we need to work in the different perspective, and this is one of the possible solution to the your we can say clean environment or green fuel. So that is the reason we always have to think out of the box, because using the conventional fuels on a larger scale will end up with no fuels being left out. So we have to think it's not too late. So go green, hydrogen powered, electric vehicle, now ethanol blending fuel. These are the 3 best possible alternatives which will be driving to the next future. So that's it from my side. I hope you all enjoyed this session and had a good informative video about flex fuel. So let's meet in the next upcoming sessions. And those students, those who are not yet subscribed to our channel, do subscribe, because we're gonna give this awesome content every Saturday and Sunday. Thank you guys. Bye bye. Take care. Stay safe and enjoy your day with BYJU'S exam prep. Thank you.